Throughout history, no justice, no peace has been a slogan for a lot of riots, and for this, it's like the people are saying without justice for whatever has been wrong to them, that they believe they won't let there be peace, and so that's why riots occur, because they don't want the peace. They want other people to suffer for what they're suffering from. And so I'm going to explain today how riots have affected our past, that's affecting our present right now, and how it will affect our future. This is important to everyone in today's society to know about the problems riots cause, because they affect society as a whole, and even if it's not in communities around us, it's still affecting us. No matter the causation, riots are always destructive. Throughout history, there's never been a riot that has been positive for both sides. The crazy thing is that these rioters have no idea that they are rewriting history and changing our future society in negative ways. When looking at riots from throughout the ages, we can see a connection between our past and the way things are now. We see that riots that happened 20 to 30 years ago have an impact on how we riot and the reasons we decide to start riots in the first place. This makes one wonder if the riots today will change the world of tomorrow. So past riots I'm going to talk about are the Newark riots, where John Smith was killed in 1967, and Rodney King riots in 1992. So this is from the Newark riots. Police had pulled over John Smith, who was a taxi driver, and they were upset because they didn't think he'd properly passed them on the street, and police he'd parked, and then they said he'd been double parking, which caused an argument, and they decided they're going to arrest him and bring him in, and they put him in the back of their van, and by the time he'd gotten to the jail, he had to be carried out of the van, and surrounding people thought because he was being carried, he'd already died, and so riots started immediately. And so because of that riot, it lasted 6 days, and he did end up actually dying in jail, or he went to jail and he had to be taken to the hospital, and he died there. The riots lasted 6 days and ultimately left a total of 26 people dead, 725 people injured, and close to 1,500 arrested. Property damages exceeded $10 million. That affected their community greatly. And I got this from the New African magazine. And with the police officers, they originally were found not guilty, and then after these riots occurred, the Supreme Court had looked over the case, and I think half of them were found guilty after that, and eventually everyone involved in it had either been fired or quit from that police department. In the Rodney King riots, which took place in Los Angeles in 1992, Rodney King and 2 passengers were driving on the interstate, and the highway police patrol tried to do a conduct a traffic stop, which led them into a high-speed chase. When King finally stopped driving, 2 police officers ordered the passengers to all be arrested. The two other passengers had been placed in a cop car, and then King was the last one to get out of the car. And 5 white police officers attempted to calm King as he got out. King was tasered, struck with side-handled batons, then tackled and cuffed. The officers claimed that he had been high on PCP, and that he was resisting arrest, and that's why all of this took place. King later took a test for the presence of PCP, and it was negative. And then later a video was released of the incident occurring, and it showed that each time he'd been hit, he was attempting to get up, and they would hit him again and tase him, and that police made no attempt to actually cuff him until he laid still on the ground. Okay. Some recent riots was after Trayvon Martin was killed. in 2012, the Ferguson riots, where Michael Brown was killed just last year, and the Baltimore riots where Freddie Gray was killed just a few months ago. And the Trayvon Martin, he had just moved into a gated community, and he was 16, I think, and he was black and had a hood on, and the neighborhood watchman thought he was being suspicious because he'd been locked out of his house, so he was going around the house trying to find another way in. And since they just moved there, the neighborhood watchman didn't recognize him, and so he thought that Martin was trying to reach for a weapon, which he wasn't, but he was shot. And that started riots immediately. The neighborhood watch guy was found not guilty because of the requirements that he had as the watchman, like if suspicion happens, you may do this if you feel threatened and all that stuff. Their riots lasted for several days after he was found not guilty. Threats to George Zimmerman, who'd been the neighborhood watch guy, were so bad that the court had suggested he wear a bulletproof vest, and he went into hiding for several days. As you can see, they burned American flags, they burned cars, they flipped cars, they did all this stuff to the town, and that affects them. Although the riots were as dangerous as some of the other ones, it still really did affect their community. And I found that from Urban Studies, or from Trayvon Martin to Walter Scott article. Okay. This picture is from Ferguson, and you can see there's a car on fire there, and the police are standing there. There's nothing they can really do. The car's gone by then. Where a police officer had shot Michael Brown and killed him, and the city had accused the officer of being racist, and the riots began. There was 3 waves of riots. The first wave lasted 16 days, the second lasting 8, and the third has been going on for about 17 days now, and the third was started because of Freddie Gray, who was murdered in Baltimore. So far, 10 people have been injured, public people have been injured, 6 police officers have been injured, and 211 people have been arrested throughout the riots. Tear gas has been used because they were so bad. There are rocks being thrown at police officers by protesters, and burning of buildings, cars, like looting of stores, and then they go and burn them. And then in Baltimore, Freddie Gray had been arrested for possession of an illegal switchblade. He had been put in a police van, and while in there suffered from a coma and had been to be taken to the trauma center. They had injured his spinal cord, and he later died. On this picture, I found from the Daily Beast, and this is how many places had been burned, robbed, like any type of major thing, major riots had happened in just the first 9 days, and it's been going on for 18 days now. And it was really neat because you could like put your cursor over that, and it would show a picture of something that had actually been there. So like a lot of them were like a building on fire, a car on fire, like a store just completely trashed. And so if you just think that's in one city, all those places have been affected and because of this. And there, 113 police officers have been injured, 2 people shot, and 1 of them is in critical condition. 486 people have been arrested, 6 police officers charged with different degrees of murder, and 1 public person charged with destruction of property for setting a building to fire. The buildings have been broken into and stolen from. There's a video, which I'll show later, and it's a CVS where you just see all these people going in and out and in and out, and then afterwards they just set it to fire. Like, that's just completely gone. So now I'm going to show you a video of just the most or the worst riots that have happened in American history. The sound doesn't really matter, it's just background music. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how it affects our future, and it affects our community, the local businesses, and like our safety and health concerns. And with the community, it affects like the people there, and it's just like it builds distrust between the community people and like the community and police officers. And in Baltimore, after these riots. After the first week, there was over 200 small businesses that were not able to reopen because of these damages. I found that in the weekend. With health and safety, schools closed because it's not safe for kids to be on the street, and like all these, it's not like healthy for them to see this violence and stuff. And the Rodney King case or riots, there was people were murdered on the street. There was a truck driver who just pulled up to a stoplight, and he was dragged out of his truck, and they beat him to death basically, or not to death, but like he's not able to talk or walk anymore because of that, and it was caught on camera. And in that, there was also over 11,000 people who were arrested, and they couldn't actually put them in jail because they couldn't keep track of what crime they've actually committed. So those people are back in the community for when future things do happen, they're going to create these things again. And in this is Jason Park on the left and his friend and business owner, Sung Kang, and they leave Kang's dump store, and he's unable to have that store anymore, and it crushed his American dream, and it came crashing down in a shower of broken glass because people broke into his store. And you can see this is an ATM right next to it, and people just burned it and broke that. So the riots greatly affect the community, and these people don't realize it. The world may turn out to be a completely different place if we stop these, but if we don't, then it's gonna not be a beautiful world or country to live in anymore. And riots around the world affect us no matter where they are, and we must all strive to end this, or the problem needs to be reduced, or we'll be ruined. and riots as a whole must be stopped, and we must strive to create a world which riots don't exist. Otherwise, our world will decay to the ruins due to riots of our nation.